Welcome to Catch Her Spark with Jen Maldonado. These are conversations with women who are building meaningful careers, stepping into leadership, and designing life on their own.
Oh my. Today I am so excited to bring this guest, Susan Alvarez. She's another engineer. She has spent her whole career working on the thing nobody thinks about until it's too late. Nobody calls a food plane manager on a sunny day, right? She's the person who shows up in the plans years before the storm does, right? Quietly making sure a city doesn't have to find out the hard way what happens when nobody planned ahead. So here's what most people don't know about her. She studied civil engineer and geology at Rice University. Then she went even deeper into water resources. And this is not because she wanted to build something flashy, right? But because she wanted to understand something most of us take for granted, where the water actually goes when it rains too high,
It
right? Too
goes
fast or too
away.
not a glamorous work, but it's also the work that decides whether a neighborhood floods or stay dry. So she's keeping you safe. And I'm going to tell a little bit, but you're going to love to get to know her. For years, she served as assistant director of Dallas Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. And under her watch, the city built something called the Resilient Dallas Plan, done in partnership with the Rockefeller Foundation. Isn't it that cool? So, a lot of things that it's easy to miss, though. Here's the part: the engineer was never the hardest part of her job. The hardest part was getting a room full of people who don't agree on much. City leaders, state regulators, tribal governments, federal agencies, developers to actually sit down and agree on something. And she's going to tell us all about it. We're going to get to know her. And again, she's not chasing credit for the flood that didn't happen or the bad air that never got announced. She's just a person who made sure nobody ever have to find out what would have happened if she had not been in the room. Welcome, Susan. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you. Thank you for asking me to talk. I am excited to meet you. I'm excited to share some of my story and hopefully it's helpful to others. Share my
Yes.
spark, if you will.
Oh my God, Susan, it's so amazing to bring another engineer to the table and talk about, yes, technical stuff, but also what we deal as women in a male-dominated industry.
Yes. There were three girls in my graduating class, and I was very careful to not be late to class because there would be all these catcalls about, well, come sit by me, and the professor would be like, well, nice of you to join us. So you couldn't sneak in because it was really obvious because there were only three girls in the class. So it starts at an early time when I was still in school.
Yes. Oh my God. I mean, you have gone through so many challenges, Susan, and we're gonna unravel those.
Uh-oh.
I would love to talk about some of those that we still deal with. And as we were talking, you mentioned about this other male character wanting to take your voice, adopt it and make it his voice. Tell me about what happened, how you stand in your ground, and did that help you unleash your voice, Susan? Tell me about that
Uh,
story.
so, so, after I completed the climate action plan for the city of Dallas, the manager who was then director, I didn't know it, but he had been running interference with the city manager while I worked with the council members to get public support for the plan so that it would be voted on. Um, that took a price out of him. And so he left. He went to EPA. He went when EPA decided to doge all the DEI folks. He went private sector. He's now working with the Nature Conservancy. So truly somebody that loves nature, loves the environment. He was a great boss. He was followed by a series of not so great bosses. And one of them didn't understand, and I will back up a little bit. We did a lot of community involvement to get that plan out on the street and get it approved. We talked to everybody and their dog and their grandma, anybody that would listen. We talked to everyone from the Dallas Chamber to the Sunrise Movement to the Democratic Eco-Socialists. So just about anyone that would listen, because we needed both business and our environmental friends and the community to be on board with what we were doing and to support this plan. So we did a lot of public speaking. And fast forward, we did a lot of public speaking across the state. And then I also, because of my work on the Dallas Climate Plan, I worked on the fifth national climate assessment, which is it's under the Global Climate Research Change Program that Congress passed back in the 90s. This was while George Bush was still president, so not a partisan effort by any shape or imagination. So I had a lot of contacts, and I was doing a lot of outreach and education about our efforts and about what needed to be done to help reduce the impacts of climate on both our local communities. I'm now at the North Central Texas Council of Governments doing regional planning around that same topic. But this can you I'm having
Yes, no, yes, I lost you for a minute.
Okay, so my computer is not working well, and so
Mhm.
sometimes it just decides it wants to turn off, and it's like spazzing out right now.
Is behaving like a brat.
It's behaving like a brat. So anyway, it literally the screen with you is flashing on and off. So I'm
Oh,
going to continue talking, and
yes,
we'll edit some of this weirdness out.
yes.
Um, the latest of these great bosses was like I had gotten invited, I think, to a climate mayors meeting to talk about our efforts. And he was like, I've been noticing that you're invited to do a lot of public speaking. And as director, it's really probably more appropriate for me to be representing the department. And we make a great team. You can do the presentation, pull the slides together, and then I'll be giving it. And I was sitting there going, no, not no, but some probably bad words. No, I have, that's, I did this work. I know it by heart. And yes, if it's something in Dallas, a new thing related to a new enterprise, go for it. I'm happy to support. But this is based on the work I've done over the last 5 years. And because you mentioned the Rockefeller plan, we did that plan first. And task 7 in that plan was to develop a climate plan for the city of Dallas. And so we achieved that through this consensus-based process. And so that wasn't going to happen. And so I was sitting there at my desk and I'm like, I'm retirement eligible. I don't have to put up with this. What am I going to do when I grow up? And while I was sitting there, um, yeah, there we go.
Oh, turn
Are we
off. There
back?
you go.
All right. So while I was sitting there trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grow up, I had not one but two different calls. And one was a girlfriend of mine from the city that was now working at a regional transit authority, and she was looking for a sustainability director. And the other was a headhunter for where I'm currently working, which is a regional council of governments. So the regional council of governments coordinates just about everything for the 16 counties in the DFW area. And it's about 300 or 400 different cities. And we do a lot of work in collaborative policy.
Mhm.
Um, we're all in one watershed, but the watershed doesn't, and the rivers and creeks don't necessarily respect jurisdictional boundaries. And so it makes sense for us to be looking at it together. Same with air quality, same with transportation, which is another department. But we also do regional codes and we do regional waste management. And so it's basically, I'm like, oh boy, I can do more. I can do climate for a whole region, not just one city. And so that's where I'm at now. And it's a good place, but it took some angst to get me there because I've been at the city for 15 years. I wasn't I was loyal. I would go to budget meetings every single night for the month of August. I would do all the behind the scenes things to make sure that other departments and other council members knew what we were doing and why, so that we wouldn't get drilled in public with questions that probably need to come out. And I will say that every single change I've made in my life and in my career, I've been really nervous about. But there's that little voice saying, hey, the heavens are speaking. You better listen. This is a good opportunity. And everything has turned out much better in the changed position. And so it's made me be a little braver and a little more open to listening to little voices saying, hey, this is an opportunity. Hey, you might you might want to look into this. You might want to figure this out. You might want to meet some new people.
Yes, I love it. I love it, Suzanne. Now, I think that we have to unravel and we have to bring some things beyond all the technical, meticulous skills that you have to keep us safe, right? And create a
Yeah.
proper place. I have a question for you. How do you develop the confidence to stand in your ground at a time where in an environment for the working women wasn't the most easy, especially in the engineer career? Step up and say, no, put in a boundary. I'm going to show up for my work. This is my voice. How
It, I do the
do you do
work.
that?
I
Mhm.
do the work. I do the homework, so I know 100% that I'm right, and I show up.
Mhm.
And I've always done that. And so when you've done your homework, you know that what you're saying is right, and you know they really do need to listen to you. And I know much earlier in my career, um, I had, well, this is much earlier because I don't know if you know Houston or not, but the George Brown Convention Center in Houston has been there forever. I worked on that when I was fresh out of school. And my boss at the time didn't like architects. And there was a team of 8 different architecture firms, including an Italian ego type architect leading the team. And he
Mhm.
didn't like them at all, didn't like working with them. And so he sent me to the meetings. That was a huge opportunity. And so I got to work with the architects. I got to work on this really good project. I did some downtown roads in downtown Houston. I did all of the site work for that facility. And it was an amazing opportunity, basically handed to me because my boss didn't particularly like architects. So you have to look for those kind of things too. But if I had gone and not said anything, and there was at one point during the meeting, I had been working on the site civil, which includes like the sewers and the water lines serving that building. And I don't know how, but the mechanical engineer had a major sewer line going through the foundation. Not a good idea. A
Yep.
terrible idea. And I brought it up in the meeting, and he got embarrassed and mad and was kind of condescending. but had to come back at the next meeting and say she was right. And I'm just,
You're welcome.
happy to help. So when you get those little wins, then it makes you braver about speaking up. And I will say during that exercise, there were two senior vice presidents at that company that had worked at Rice. And they kind of took me under wing, and they would take me to meetings with the chamber, and they would take me to meetings with business leadership in the community. So I was exposed to that. Well, I was fresh out of school. I was working at fresh out of school wages. I had to make clothing that was appropriate to go to meetings like that. So I was making these little suits to wear because that's what you did in Houston. And things have relaxed a little bit more. But still, I still remember making the clothing, and I would go home from work and I'd be making a blouse or making so that I could not be, I could go into that, high business type surrounding and not be embarrassed. And I'm grateful to those men for basically mentoring me in that part of the business. And so I would say, but one of the other things, and this is where I was going with this, is one of them told me if you've been invited to a meeting, they want you there, they want you to participate. So if you have something to say, speak up. And that sometimes that's scary. I don't know these people. They're like vice presidents and project managers. And at that point, they were like registered engineers, and I was a baby engineer. But I have him in the back of my head saying, "You're there for a reason, speak up." And so that is also something I've learned over time. So and that's something I would encourage other people. Take advantage of things that you are given. It may look like they're dumping on you, but that dumping of a responsibility is an opportunity. And I took that opportunity and I was able to shine. And then once you get a little win like that, then people want you on their team because they know you're going to make the whole team work well and better and look good, if that makes sense.
I love it. I love it. So you took your voice, you show your voice, and you allow your voice to unleash, let's call it.
Yeah.
And the other voices that tell you you were made for more,
Yeah.
not just to keep yourself
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another related story, and it was later in my career. I worked for a really small woman-owned business in Seattle, and the founder of this business just worked for Native American communities. And basically, one of it's not really a chief because chiefs aren't really the leadership of the tribe said, Callie, we really like you. We don't like your big engineering firm. If you will incorporate, we'll give you all our business. And then tribal communities provide references by word of mouth. And so word of mouth went from one community to another. But we were working for a community that had sued the US government and 9 mining companies for environmental damages. And our direction from that chairman was get that stuff, except it was a 4-letter word for stuff, off the res. It was a lot of heavy metals, it was a lot of mine waste, and it was poisoning
Wow.
traditional foods that they lived off of. And it was covering 85% of the lake that they lived off of. And so I have this guy's voice in the back of my head saying, get that stuff off the res. Well, the UP Railroad decided to settle. And part of the settlement was to turn the rail through the reservation into a rails to trails. Well, that's great, except that over the years, they had used mine waste to repair places where the river had washed out the railroad. And so they had all these heavy metals
Jeez.
along the passageway. Well, So we were working on the settlement agreement for construction and, what to do if you find something. Here's what we want you to do to clean it up. Here's the communication protocols. Well, towards the end of these negotiations, the UP and their consulting engineer was not wanting to do the right thing. And I have the voice saying, get that off the res. And so I was working very hard to get language into the agreement that would cover the tribe if and when they found other stuff along the railroad. Well, I got called into the tribal government's offices, and the attorney from the EPA was there, and he was steaming mad. He was like, she's effing up the deal. And so the chair said, well, what are you doing? And so I explained the situation, and he turned to EPA and goes, it sounds like she's doing what we hired her to do.
I love it. I love it.
And so you get these little wins along the way, and you
Yes.
learn that you really do need, and people are relying on you to say and do the right thing. And I have learned over the years that you say and do the right thing for the right reasons. And it may be ugly in current time, but at the end of the day, you can sleep.
Yes.
And at the end of whatever, it's going to come out who did the right thing for the right reasons. It's always going to come out in a positive way. And those are important lessons to learn. So yes,
Yeah.
I effed up the deal, but at the end of the day, I did the right thing by the tribe. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you are having the hard conversations, the hard negotiations, bringing the truth, the right thing to do, impacting communities when you have the high powers trying to push it the other way, right? And
yeah.
that's the tough things to do. How do you bring the courage that to have those conversation, and is there any other people that helps you and influence you to navigate these situations, Susan?
Um, that's a great question. I run a lot, not as much as I used to, but it helps to get the yayas out, the nerves, because I mean, I'm not a confrontational type person, and I only get angry when really pushed hard. I'm more of be scary when I'm quiet because that's really when I'm more dangerous. Um, but I run, and I won't lie, I do sometimes get sick at my stomach knowing that I'm going into something that's going to get ugly, but it doesn't mean that I don't do it. And again, it's having known and done the right thing for the right reasons over time. I know how it's going to shape out, and that helps provide courage, if you will, as well. It's one of those things. My dad passed when I was little, and so, and my mom basically, she was from Kansas, but we lived in Canada long enough, and she was around British people, and she'd be like, "Oh, yeah, stiff upper lip," like the Brits, and I'd be like, No." So I stiff upper lip, but then I would go for like a 20-mile run to run off the yayas and just run off that energy because that sometimes when you're in a controversial meeting like that, there's a lot of energy that you don't want to carry it because it's not pretty.
Yeah.
And so you have to get it in a good and healthy place. And long distance running for me has been a helpful way of trying to kind of work through some of that. Problem's still there when you get back, but it doesn't seem as problematic, and that negative energy is dispersed a little bit along the way.
Love it. So you found a physical way to reallocate that energy, transform it in a way.
Yeah.
And then your mama, in one way, was trying to say, don't do this, but I bet
Oh,
And
she
I
was
know
more
this.
like fuck it up and do it, you know.
Oh, it was in the other way. Okay,
Yeah, the
okay.
other way. Yeah, no, no. My mom was like, yeah, no whining kind of a.
Love it. So that's where you got you
Well,
inherit
there's
some of that
a little
then.
bit more to that too. My mom had polio when she was 14.
Hmm.
Wasn't supposed to live, wasn't supposed to walk. Well, my mom is one of those people, if you tell her you can't, she's going to do it. She's going to find a way. So she walked. She, went to college, and then her dad had told her, well, you better learn something like engineering or geology or something. You're going to need a job where you can support yourself because no man's going to want to marry you, which is heartbreaking. So of
Yes.
course, my mom had a triple major in geology, physics, and math. Yes, I
Wow.
am genetically a nerd. I can't help it.
Love
So
it.
and then she was told to get a job in a kitchen because the oil companies wouldn't want to hire a woman. Well, so she went to work for Shell, met my dad, and went skipping off to Canada. And then she was told she wasn't going to have kids. And so she had the three of us. So I've got my mom doing all this stuff she was told she can't do. And logically you would think she probably wouldn't do, but that's who I have saying, buck it up. I,
Yeah. So she was your role model. She's
she
like, oh,
was
you
my
told me I
role
can do it.
model, and it was mainly because she was really working through some really tough personal challenges
Yeah.
through her life. And so why am I going to whine because somebody's being mean to me?
Yes, yes. I
That,
love it.
yeah. So that it's not just mom saying, do it. It's mom with like a
Showing.
superhuman uh
You.
aspect to her, saying you
I
can do it.
love it. She's like, oh, I cannot do it. I'm gonna show you 3x how I do it. I'm gonna take and do
Exactly,
three major,
exactly.
have
Eh,
three kids. I'm like, and tell me one more.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Exactly.
my God. That explains a lot. It's so amazing always to have that strong role model, right? Especially you see her doing it. Now, have any other women play a big role in your life?
Yeah. Not so much. My grandmother, again, because of what she was doing, my dad passed when I was in the third grade, and so we moved back to Tulsa. And this same mom that did all this stuff she wasn't supposed to do, didn't drive, didn't have a job, had three kids that she's going to have to raise by herself. And so she moved to Northeast Oklahoma. My grandparents had a farm in Southeast Kansas, and my grandmother would come down and help us with different things. And my grandmother quit school to be married, and she had a beautiful voice, and she would sing professionally to raise what she called pin money, which was basically her budget.
Yeah.
And she would make sure that we had things to do in the summer and that we had clothes and we had Christmas. And so my grandmother, even though she would be, I can always hear her singing hymns because she also sang in church as she dusted the house and cleaned up and cooked dinner for 20 people. She was amazingly strong. But she never let it on. She'd be like a duck, smooth and ruffled on the surface, but below the surface of the water, paddle like hell. And that was kind of her motto. And that's, again, do your homework. Don't be afraid to speak. Dig in and do what you can with what you've got. And so I would say my mom and my grandmother were probably my biggest role models.
I love it. I love it, Susan. It sounds like you have great role models and allowing you to be stronger in a world that, wasn't designed from the start for us to be doing what we do as women, right, in the
Yeah.
field. Yes. And I love the fact that you say, you know what? I am at the retirement age, but I'm not done yet. I have so
I'm
much to add. Tell me
so so here's the thing. I can retire. financially I'm set, or I've done the math. I should be able to financially I can set. But most of the people I know that are retired are basically walking their dogs, eating bonbons, watching daytime TV, and waiting to die. And I look at what's going on in our country. I look at what's going on in our state, in our community, relative to water, relative to the impacts of climate change. I have a voice. I have 40 some odd years of experience. I would be an extreme derelict if I did not do what I can while I still can. And so that's why I'm here at the COG, is to try to lead the region towards a more sustainable future. And I think that's critically important. And I'll go as long as I'm having fun and getting stuff done.
Love it. Having fun. I think that's such a great thing for women. We love to have fun, experiences, share knowledge and resources. Have been the case, and we were talking about, but has been the case that you found your tribe and how your tribe has transformed your life, your experiences, your career.
Um, well, it's kind of funny because when I was first starting out, I realized that I was too much of an engineer for pure environmentalists, and I was too much of an environmentalist for most engineers. But what I have found through time and work and efforts is I speak two languages, and it's good. And my fit is actually in that space, bridging those worlds that don't normally talk to each other. We're doing some work right now in the developing areas around um, DFW, where if they develop to the density of everything that's already built out, the main part of the built part of the Metroplex will absolutely flood, and they cannot afford new infrastructure. And so, how do we build smarter to prevent those floods? That's where we started out, is doing the work up front to prevent flooding. Well, a lot of it is in preserving green space. So the water has a place to go other than in buildings and people's houses. And so that's an environmental function. And that's integrating the environmental functions more into the built environment deliberately, and preserving those areas because of the values they bring overall to air quality, to drainage, to water quality, to even having nice places for people to walk with their kids and their dogs. So to me, it's I didn't think I fit. And now I realize that not fitting is exactly where I need to be. If and so and I will put that out there for people. You don't have to fit in. But then since then, I have really good friends that are engineers, and really good friends that are environmentalists, and really good friends that kind of dabble in both like I do. And so it's one of those things where I've learned that not fitting is actually a superpower, and that at the end of the day, people will like you for kind of completing what they are not. So the engineers like me because I'll tell them, well, that's great, but why don't you consider driving an electric vehicle? And yeah, no, electric vehicles actually have less of a fire risk than fossil fuel. And so, the other thing I have learned over time is I have kind of a reputation for being pretty straightforward and blunt, and I've learned to kind of soften that a little bit and ask more questions to kind of lead the listener into their own truth, rather than just saying, oh, you're wrong, that's stupid. I don't do that anymore. I try not to. Sometimes I just can't help it, it pops out. But
Just come out.
but no, generally I've gotten a little more gentle, um, moving forward, or have you considered, or gosh, help me to understand. And it's usually something I already know the answer to, but I don't necessarily want to be mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to a few girls and then a couple of other conversations, and we were talking about the importance of listening and understanding the other perspective because we might be missing something that, yes, we might be right. Yes, we might disagree still, but the fact that we are acknowledging that other party, it just create a completely different interaction in the
Yeah.
relationship, the energy, and the results is it's better. It's better
Yeah.
for us listening.
It's really interesting. I have two divisions in my department, and we just did strengths training, which I highly recommend. It's really interesting, it's fun, there's no bad outcomes. And one of my managers is very achievement focused, and the other one is a woo. And she's more focused on collaboration and communication and bringing everybody along. And I have to stop myself sometimes because she's doing her woo thing about, well, what do you think about this? And what kind of idea? And I am mentally thinking, shut up, this is too much. But then I have to pull back because she's pulling out what we really need to know to move forward collaboratively with our plans. And so it's really good having those different strengths and having those different ways of tackling problems in a team because
Yes.
she gets to some things that I wouldn't because I'd be busy charging on ahead. And so sometimes, and it happened in the meeting before we got here, she was doing a roofing and I'm like, oh, sit back, Sue. She's getting at some meat here. And it's just a different communication style and it's great. And it's good to know that you don't necessarily have to be an extroverted, strong leader to lead.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's power in asking the right questions,
Yes.
and creating a safe place where people will speak, or can speak.
Yeah.
And they may be spouting nonsense, but it's okay. That safe space among the nonsense is going to be a gem that you really need. And so those are critical lessons that I am still learning, but I'm working on it.
Don't we all? I love it. I love it, Susan. Well, Susan, we're getting to the end, and I want to ask you so many questions. Continue to get more of your wisdom. But I will ask you this because we were talking about the importance of having a tribe, having people that we can reach to because how those women support you and it's been my experience not only in engineering but real estate and other industries where having that women
Mhm.
backup allow me to do things that probably I wasn't even there, right? So what are some of the conversations you think women should be having that we are not having personally or professionally?
I I think I think they're like in all communications, you have to build trust and you have to understand who is going to be there when you need them and who is not. And that is so hard. I have a core group of friends, and a lot of them I met along the way during my climate planning adventures. There is one of the friends that has said, if you ever need a job, I will hire you in a heartbeat. And I love that. And she touches base every now and then, and I'm actually getting ready to do some green space planning with her. But she has also introduced me to some other people that it's the same thing. And it's like what I was describing earlier. I might not see this person for 6 months, but when I pick up the phone, she's there as she always has been. And she supports and she will tell me what I need to hear, good, bad, and ugly. And I love that. And so it is important, I think, to have a group of trusted friends. And it doesn't mean that you go out for coffee every week with them, but it's people that you trust that when push comes to shove, you know they have their back. This same lady during Winter Storm Uri called to see how I was doing, And at the time, my neighborhood, I don't live in a neighborhood that got power back very quickly. I'll just put it that way. It's what they call transitional. Um, my road was a block of ice, and she's like, "You could come stay with us. We have a bedroom." Well, she's like 5 miles away. I can't even get out of my driveway, let alone out of my neighborhood. But she was there, and she was checking on me, and I had my little Pueblo lantern trying to heat up my space. But she's that way. I have another friend that, for whatever reason, thinks that I'm on par with her. She does a lot of stuff with smart cities and AI, and she's amazing. And every now and then she's like, "Oh, we're having a Lionsgate affair on August 8th. You got to come. It'll be fun." And so a lot of women like that I know, if push came to shove, they would be there. They would be a friend. There's continuity. Um, and so I have a good handful of friends like that also makes me braver when I'm marching in and doing my thing, because I know I've got a tribe, as you will, that will boost me up or make me feel better when I come back and go, "Oh, they hated it."
Yes, yes. Well, I
Um,
think that you said very well a little bit earlier. You have to honor your friends, and probably you show up in the way you do to honor your friends and their
yeah,
courage.
yeah,
So, yes.
yeah, and it is, and it's interesting, this 4th of July. And it was that original boss. Had a bunch of us over, and he's like, "Yeah, it's the Green Mafia." I'm like, "Well, we're not, but it's a tribe, and it
Yeah.
was great to catch up with everybody and find out what they'd been doing in the interim since I'd last seen them. And they've kind of moved forward from where we were, all of the city of Dallas, into different areas, and everybody's doing good work, and they're all potentially retirement eligible, but it's like, no, I've got stuff to do, and it's critical that some of this gets done. So
Yes, yes, awesome. Well, Susan, thank you so much for giving us your wisdom, your story,
what's left
sharing
of it.
sharing about you. It was an honor to really have you here with us.
Yeah, I would love to talk with you further, and maybe someday we will, because I think you probably have some secrets back there that would be interesting to find out as well.
Yes,
So
love
it's
it.
been fun.
Yes. Well, thank you, Susan, for your time.
You've been listening to Catch Her Spark with Jen Maldonado, where bold women lead the way. Ready to share your spark? Apply to be a guest at catchherspark.com/guest.